So, level 1, boot Blender, click in your object, add a material, and nothing changes. In the background, Blender added a material with a principled BSDF node to your object. It's an incredibly powerful node, and with the right setup, it can create practically any material in 3D. But in its default state, it's unassuming. You can change the color, lower the roughness, you can even make it look like metal. You see, this is only the first level of the 6 levels of building materials in Blender. It's the most basic version, and although simple, it's the first real step towards unlocking the real power that comes with the final levels. But you're just level 1 now, so let's begin with some easy examples. Rough plastic, set the roughness anywhere from 0.3 to 0.8, add some transmission to have light pass through, and done. Soapy bubble, roughness to near 0, IOR to 3, transmission to 1, and in the thin film tab, set the thickness to roughly 500 Newton meters and the IOR to 1.6. Done. Car paint material, give it a nice color, crank up the metallic to 1, the roughness to something relatively rough like 0.25, and then add a coat of 1 to get that nice glossy top layer. Now you probably already knew these basic examples, so let's level up instead. By adding layers of detail, we can add depth and realism to materials. The simplest way of doing this is by adding so-called texture nodes to your materials and connecting their outputs to inputs on the principled BSDF node. There's plenty different texture nodes, but in most cases, a Voronoi, noise, wave, or gradient texture will suffice. But let's get back to our last material, the car paint. One standout feature is clearly missing, that sort of speckled look that metallic car paint has. That automatically limits your node choice to either a noise or a Voronoi texture, since those give those tiny details. The noise texture, set to a large scale like 1000, gives plenty tiny detail to use. And since these speckles should catch and distort light, it makes sense to convert the output to normals using a normal map node with low strength. And this does bring you pretty close. But car paint looks more flaky, sharp-edged speckles, not soft. So let's give the Voronoi a go instead. Same scale and detail, but just to get those sharp and angular shapes. And there you go. Much better. When it comes to layers of detail, it's usually not 1, but 2, 3, or any higher number that can really help make your material pop. Now, most textures, when not using their color outputs, output a value range of 0 to 1, meaning any point here is either black, white, or any gray value in between. In this case, you're using that data to control the normals, but if you were to plug those black and white values into the roughness, for example, they're pretty bad values. No material is fully reflective, for example, not even a mirror, so a roughness value of 0 makes no sense. And the same can be said for a roughness value of 1 too. The fix is pretty simple. You simply need to tune those values. So instead of 0 to 1, you need to change these values using something like a color ramp or a map range node. These are perfect nodes for adding granular control to value ranges like those coming out of texture nodes. You can use both the map range and the color ramp to get the exact same result. In terms of calculating the final shader though, I know that map ranges tend to compute a little bit faster than color ramps. However, I'm much more of a visual person than a mathematical one, so seeing the colors and the color stops just makes a little bit more sense to me. Anyways, your Voronoi texture to get those flaky shapes is outputting colors, which by taking the color ramp get converted to black and white values. If you then take these values and then change them from black and white or 0 and 1 to gray values equal to numbers like, for example, 0.5 and 0.8 or 0.6, you get a much less contrasted spectrum of gray tones. By also dragging in these color stops, you get additional control and nice clean shapes, which really changes the overall effect of the speckles to become much more natural, in my opinion. It's really perfect for a car paint. For this material, there's really only one layer to tune as of now, but for other materials, there might be lots of layers, each requiring individual tuning to get the perfect look, or even multiple nodes and textures combined just to get one good looking material property, as you'll see in one of the later levels. But in this case, it's a simple addition that really makes a big difference overall, and you're still just in level 3, which is only about halfway to creating those real smart and pro materials inside of Blender. Now, just like there's levels to building materials, there's also levels to managing a business. And that's where Odoo, today's video sponsor, will level up your workflow. Odoo is an all-in-one management platform offering over 45 seamlessly integrated apps, all designed to meet your business needs. Whether it's customer relation management, invoicing, hosting your website, or even simply tracking your projects, Odoo has an app for it. and they're all connected to each other. Jump over to the e-commerce app to launch your web shop. As orders come in, invoices are created automatically, and your inventory stays up to date. One connected system, everything you need to sell online. I personally really like that Odoo is easy to use. It's very customizable without feeling overwhelming, and it's automatically tailored to my location, which is great for someone who works with a lot of international companies. Adding Odoo into your business can be as small or as big as you want it, simply using it to offload one task like accounting, or adding dozens of applications to streamline your entire company's pipeline. Plus, and this might just be one of the best features, it's super affordable, with the first application being free for life, including unlimited hosting and support, and regionally tailored prices for all apps besides that first one. So please make sure to check out Odoo through the link in the description to start leveling up your business, and thank you to Odoo for sponsoring this video. Now let's go to level 4. And this is where things get a lot more interesting. It's where you leave the basic stuff behind and start adding in more complex effects. Things like so-called surface imperfections. And it's the single reason that this material looks so much better than this one. So for our car paint material, maybe our car has been driving through the mud and we need mud to appear on top of the paint. Since you already have your principled BSDF set up to be a nice, shiny, metallic car paint, you can't simply add dirt to that shader. But although it might look like it, the node that started this material, the principled BSDF, doesn't have to be the only so-called shader node within your material. You can actually use multiple shader nodes. By adding in a second principled BSDF, you can effectively build multiple shaders into one. Again, using a noise texture, doubling that up with another noise texture for some variation, and taking the output through 2 different color ramps, one for the color using multiple dirt-like colors, and one for the normals to create some nice bump, you get a simple but effective dirt shader. And as the final detail, you can add some variation between wet and dry parts by using another set of textures to control the roughness. That means we have 2 shaders set up, the car paint and the dirt. To combine the two, you can add one of 2 nodes, an add shader or a mix shader node. The add shader combines the two by adding all the values of your materials and outputting that combined value as the new material. You can even chain in multiple of them and combine a lot of different shaders. This is, for example, how you get a glass shader with a cool chromatic dispersion effect. But if you use an add shader here, you'd see that it's not what you're looking for. The material should have parts of paint and parts of dirt, not a combination of the two. To do this, you need a mix shader node that allows for far more control over the effect using textures once again. So by taking a noise texture and plugging that into the factor of the mix shader, there appears a separation between the 2 shaders. The texture that you just introduced now behaves as a mask. And since the material can really only be either paint or dirt, not both, you don't want any mixed values. So by adding a color ramp or map range node as explained in level 3, you're able to dial everything in to get the right look. Okay, let's take a second here. So far, all of your material changes have been fully procedural, which means that they're all mathematically generated in the background by Blender. The great thing about this is that a procedural material can easily be applied to any object without looking bad or distorted, unlike image texture-based materials. Plus, generally speaking, they're quite light on your computer when it comes to rendering, which is a big bonus. However, there's certain effects, like for example scratches or fingerprints, that although could be generated procedurally, are just easier to do through image textures. And you can find these all around the internet. But I can also really recommend you an add-on called Realistic Touch, which allows you to drag and drop over 200 seamless imperfections with additional controls. It's just a very easy way to add surface imperfections. In its most basic form though, you'd simply add a preferably seamless imperfection texture and plug it straight into your roughness to get some easy extra realism in your materials. Now for the car paint material, you could use a scratch texture like this one, and instead of plugging it into the roughness, which is actually below our top coat, you'd want the imperfections to appear in the top coat where they would naturally be in the real world, so you plug it in the coat roughness instead to make sure that only the top layer is affected. Nice, you're getting somewhere. But what if I told you that overall this would still be considered a dumb material? First of all, the dirt is just everywhere, and the same is the case for the scratches. Dirt would mostly be present on the bottom or the lower region of the car, since that's where the road is, and scratches would be mostly present in parts that stick out more, since those are more likely to catch damage while driving. So what if you could have this material do all those things automatically for you, no matter the model that you use? That would be a pretty smart material. So the shader needs to be fed the information that parts of the mesh that are concave or sticking inward should have less damage than parts that are convex or sticking out. And this is where something called attributes come into play. Attributes are data points usually attached to your geometry that can be used inside the shader to control material properties. A great example of some of the default attributes that you can use can be found using the geometry node, which you shouldn't confuse with geometry nodes. This contains various attributes like the position factor, the tangent, or the pointiness. And this last one, pointiness, can actually be used to find the convex and concave parts of a mesh automatically. It's pretty solid, but it doesn't work in Eevee. Luckily, there's now better ways to generate attributes since the introduction of geometry nodes. So to make a proper smart material, you actually have to leave the shading workspace and hop on over to geometry nodes. Here you want to create a so-called store named attribute node. To simplify that, this just means that you're storing certain data with a certain name. That's really all it is. In this case, the data that you want to store is the signed edge data that can be found using the edge angle node. And for the name, you can simply put in anything you'd like for example, edge angle, or if you really want to make it smart, something like subscribe to Kaizen maybe. And that's it. You now have your attribute ready to use in the shader by adding an attribute node in the shader editor, typing in that same name, making sure spelling is correct, and if I preview it, well, there it is. Plus, it also works in Eevee. So now we can do the exact same for our car paint shader. Again, adding in a geometry node system, adding the store named attribute, inputting the edge angle data, and then using that as an attribute in our shader. And now, just as with the mix shader, you can use this black and white output as a sort of mask to control where the scratches appear. By default, the edge angle outputs concave as black and convex as white, meaning that the inside parts will be masked off, which is exactly what you'd want in this scenario. In other cases, you might need to invert it, and you can once again use the map ranger color ramp node to do so. Use the attribute and combine it with the scratch texture through a mix color node. This simply allows control over how the colors are mixed. The top should be black effectively, meaning nothing should appear, and the bottom can be the scratch texture, and the factor is the attribute that we just created, used as a mask to control which parts don't or do have scratches. And voila, you now have masked off scratches that automatically apply to the parts of any mesh that stick out. But what about the dirt? Well, it's a bit different because now you want to have an effect that uses sort of the proximity between objects to generate a black and white mask. Luckily, there's this beautiful, albeit somewhat computationally expensive, ambient occlusion node. Often it's mostly white or grayish if you preview it, but once again, you can dial in these values using a color ramp, for example. By doing so, certain parts of the mesh immediately become darker, which is perfect, right? Because these are the exact same areas that would catch more dirt because of lack of exposure to wind or rain, and where dust and dirt are just more likely to accumulate. So take the color ramp output, plug it into the mix shader factor, and you get accurate mixing between the two shaders. And to make it look even better, you can add variation to the ambient occlusion by taking a noise texture and plugging the factor output into the distance value of the ambient occlusion to get some varying distance values. Obviously, you can use color ramps or map ranges here too to add additional control to this effect. And using these automatic masking techniques is what really takes this from a pretty dumb material to a smart material. But although the material now procedurally adapts to any mesh, it's far from easily reusable, which is what I would consider a professional smart material to be able to do. Now, a lot of tweakable values, like for example, the color of this shader, are directly available through the material properties. Color, roughness, or even the code values are some of them that you can access through this menu, which is amazing for when you're using this material in a non-shader based workspace. But what if you want control over the scratches or the dirt, or even simply the scale of the speckles in the metallic car paint? Well, it is possible, but it's such a tedious process to find these specific settings and features in this giant heap of possible sliders and data fields. That might not sound like a huge problem, but imagine having to do it hundreds of times for dozens of different materials. It's pretty annoying, and it's why when you buy a professional shader, it will always have these controls available to you. So adding in these reusability controls is the real final level of creating a smart material in Blender. After this, you're left with basically any professional shader or material you might buy or find online. To do it, you want to decide on any and all values that you'd like to control. For the sake of this video though, let's keep it limited to just 4. The first attribute node goes into the base color using the color output, and let's call it that too, base color. The next one goes in the normal map strength using the factor output. The third one, also using the factor output, since you only want black and white values here, can be plugged in the map range node that controls the noise texture for the ambient occlusion and called something like AO control. And finally, the fourth, again with the factor output, plugged into the scale of your Voronoi texture called a Voro scale, for example. And by doing all that, you should have basically ruined your material, which kind of makes sense because none of these attributes are referenced anywhere, and so Blender can't really find them, and therefore it breaks the material. Let's hop on over to geometry nodes again, and this is where the final magic happens. Simply add in a couple more store named attribute nodes, obviously one for each value that you just decided on that you wanted to control. And while you're at it, you can simply copy over the names too by just switching between workspaces, hovering over a field like the name, Control-C, and then pasting it in the other name field with Control-V. And finally, make sure that the store named attribute containing your base color is using color data, not float values, which are again just black and white values. Now you can take the color value and connect it to your group input node. Now press N to open up the geometry node editor, select the value that just got added in the group sockets, and rename it to base color for convenience. You can do the same as well with all the other values, obviously respecting their individual names. The final thing should look something like this, meaning you have now exposed these values within the geometry nodes modifier, allowing you to control each value directly through the modifier tab without switching workspaces. To me, this is what truly makes for a level 6 professional smart material. And although these are some very basic examples of how to use attributes, I hope that they show you that through attribute manipulation, you can add extensive controls, eventually resulting in complex shaders like this final carpet that I made. But if all of this is a lot and you feel like you're not able to learn Blender really, check out this video and maybe find out why you're stuck instead of growing your skills.